try not to leave the camera shining directly into the sun, but I was in another room listening to a podcast on the Fediverse, Mastodon. I participate in a community built around a hashtag that is artists and creators. Well, it's called Scribes and Makers, hashtag Scribes and Makers. And today's question: describe a podcast. Tell us about a podcast you enjoy. Oh, I can never just answer. I have to say a lot. So I mentioned three. At the height of my audio podcast listening, Paul Holdengraber's The Quarantine Tapes and On Being with Krista Tippett helped me survive 2020 to 2022. Nowadays, I regularly tune in to the daily video stream podcast, The Majority Report, that offers me political solidarity. But I'm currently listening to the Quarantine Tapes episode linked here and realize that I'm missing that level of nourishment. And I was listening to, and it's just 30 minutes, 30-minute interview, phone call between Paul Holdengraber and Natalie Etoke. And Natalie Etoke is a professor and professor and author, associate professor of Francophone and Africana Studies at City University of New York. Her book that was coming out at the time of the interview, titled Shades of Black, released in April 2021. And the conversation had references to James Baldwin, Jean-Paul Sartre, one might say that the womb of death, the Middle Passage, slavery, and colonization gave birth to black populations. Taking this observation as her point of departure, Nathalie Etoke examines Black existence today in her riveting new book, Shades of Black. In a white supremacist world, Black bodies hold a specific position, invested with a range of meaning that maintains them in a fixed role with a script they did not write. The white world has invented and defined the Black person according to its own interests, endowing her with a bereaved humanity. The Black person is confronted with an essential paradox: exist as Black or as a human being. Does the Black person exist for herself or for the other? In the white world, is the Black race the embodiment of a sub-humanity? Situated at the crossroads of three countries, Cameroon, France, and the United States, Itoke is uniquely positioned for this polyphonic reflection on race. She examines what happens when race obliterates historical, social, cultural, and political differences among populations of African descent from different parts of the world, focusing on recent and ongoing topics in the United States, including the murder of George Floyd, police brutality, and the complex symbolism of Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. Itoke explores the relations of violence, oppression, dispossession, and inequalities that have brought us here, face to face with these existential questions. Are you breathing? Are we breathing? The publisher is Seagull Books. Look up seagullbooks.org for a number of interesting looking options, including audiobooks, Rob. Okay, I'm in pain. Surprise. I'm going to make my meal so I can take my pills and be in a little less pain. Uh, I could talk about. I filled out a medical form yesterday, one of the like an intake form. So you know, it's like asking how many of these problems am I going to admit to having, or how far back am I going to go, or how well do I know my parents? So I was just thinking, like preheat to 400, yes, sir. So I don't know about you, but my oven is not perfectly clean. But even if it were, I, for a long time I didn't have. What am I trying to say? Nowadays, as soon as I turn on my oven, I turn on the hood, the fan. But in my mind, in the past, I would have turned on the fan when I was using the stove and not the oven, just not even think about it. But I like getting those fumes out. And if there is anything dirty in the oven that makes smoke, get that out too. Okay. Weirdly, I'm choosing frozen pizza. I guess I don't know if that's weird. Personally, I don't understand what's what counts as breakfast food and what doesn't. So I can understand in the sense of if your tummy's not woken up to, and just wants some yogurt or cereal or coffee while you wait, tea. tea would be better. Whatever it is you like. I think toasted bread with cheese, spinach, and mushrooms sounds like a good breakfast, and then I'll have leftovers for later. Oh boy, what to do? What to do? What to do? Hoo-ha. Oh boy, so many, so many, so many tabs. So many tabs. Yesterday I posted something about self-esteem. Uh, Instead of scrolling, I'll search from me esteem. Self-esteem allows others to be free, to feel whatever they feel, even about me. Not fuck them if they don't like me defensiveness, but genuine live and let live love. That's unlocked by self-esteem. Yeah, but what about throat clearing? I don't know. It remains to be seen if my college therapist thought a lot of it was nervous tick behavior. I mean, it certainly doesn't seem like it. I wake up and I feel, but maybe I'll reach a point when I can talk without doing that. Or have a setup where I have a cough button, like on the radio. Now, I've got to get this thing out of a box, bake directly on center rack for 15 to 19 minutes. Inspired by the brick ovens of Italy, I'm sure. It's freshetta. I wanted Newton's own, Newman's own, but they didn't have the flavor I wanted. I'm doing a spinach and mushroom like white pizza. I didn't want a bunch of red sauce and sausage, and it's not what I want right now. That's good sometimes. Let's distribute these mushrooms that have gotten all malapportioned. They've gotten all gerrymandered all over the place. Oh, I could talk politics, but I'll just say last night, Zoran Mondani was elected mayor of New York City. Yeah. Fuck. um, content. Content. What content? I don't feel well. So that's my excuse, Explanation. There's always data. There's always data. There's always background. And in my case, it's, oh boy, what isn't it? But lately, I'll just say tinnitus and nonstop physical pain. So, discourse talking about self-esteem sounds individualistic, self-helpy. Um, Self-esteem allows others to be free to feel whatever they feel, even about me. Not fuck them if they don't like me, defensiveness, but genuine, live and let live love. That's unlocked by self esteem. So it sounds personal about individual relationships or one person's relationships with the rest of the world. But I was inspired to write it thinking about more than just me, one person, or one person's relationship with friends, family, and the world. Because because we human beings, communities make groups, in groups, out groups. Prior to yesterday's election in New York City, so much of what was said about Zohran Mamdani was um, just atrocious. Hate. And then, just a few minutes ago, I read a description of an author of a book about blackness in relation to, white supremacy. And I mean, there is no, I mean, she even says in the white world, is the black race an embodiment of subhumanism? humanity, does the black person exist for herself or for the other? The black person is confronted with an essential paradox: exist as black or as a human being? Question mark. All of that's externally imposed. And then, we have our internal choices of communities. Internal? Well, personal. When I was thinking about self esteem and when I wrote that, yes, I'm thinking about the individual. Yes, I'm thinking about me. Yes, I'm sharing thoughts I go through, reflections. And I'm also thinking about politics and white America. Because when I see leaders, when I see the reactions, oops, I forgot to set a timer. I could go back in the stream. I often neglect to set a timer and just go with vibes and observing the thing in the oven. When I observe white America reacting to, just say, that book synopsis that I just read, and when I observe, white people reacting defensively, angrily, negatively, I believe that it reflects a lack of self-esteem, a need to have some worth, some exalted position that is accepted, acknowledged by others. It's exhausting, it's unnecessary, it's unrealistic, it causes tension. And to me, it seems laughable, pathetic, childish, immature, redundant. keep in mind that when I say things, I'm convincing myself or reminding myself, talking to myself, because I can't claim to be completely over it, and I won't deny that I have in the past felt all those things about criticism, about racial discourse. There's what probably gets there's a discourse around white guilt, which is also immature. um, it's like that's a lower level of humanity. Whoa, that's I just mean again, I'm talking to me, talking to past me. But if you're operating on a level of guilt for something that over which you do not bear I mean, like responsibility, the past, um, then you are reacting as though your esteem is on the line uh, when we're just talking about history. So why would that be? Feel, revulsion, feel anger, feel impatience, feel disappointment, and do better. But don't feel guilt. Let's look at the pizza. Got ways to go. And with everything in conservative politics, I never know if the people mean what they say or are simply speaking to attempt, to manipulate. And there's no way of knowing, and they may not even know themselves. When I say conservative, I mean liberal. I mean most people. Hmm. I don't know if I mean most people, but I mean liberal, I mean capitalist, because, or I mean, I include that. I include what normally is meant by conservative, and I include a lot more because, the transformation that I am attempting includes walking away from a desire to control, influence others, to have expectations, to and this is just me. Um, I'll say it's possible that what am I going to say? I'll say, well, I like allowing differences, and I mean, because what else am I going to do about it? What I mean is, I like accepting and embracing differences, and I don't know, I don't need to know, I don't need to have an opinion on or judge everybody, anybody. So, you know, and I consume work within the current system, and there may be sincerity, there may be good that is coming out of it. I suppose I'll just say I'm agnostic on it, except when it comes to me. And when it comes to me, I'm not agnostic on the fact that a focus on metrics is unhealthy for me. A focus on manipulation, influence, marketing is unhealthy for me. Maybe there are some creators who are authentic, balanced, healthy, and attuned to their audience reach. And it's good, for me to acknowledge that anytime I set something up um, as polar, this or this, this is other focus is bad, me motivated is good. Anything that I've polarized like that is this binary that tendency of my brain to want to simplify or just somehow just see things that way from the beginning. I don't really think is legitimate. So, you know, but I talk this way or I think this way because I feel like I'm living in a world that's so far in the other direction, which is, of course, people, the reason you do things is to get an audience and, get your YouTube plaque and your AdSense and get up to this number and celebrate your metrics. And um, I mean, like that is so normal that I would say from what I observe, most people see any, don't have any hesitation or any, see anything questionable about it. Or then the next level, so there's enthusiastic, just hell yeah, this is all good. Get those clicks, get those likes naturally. That's then there's like another level that's no, everything should be in balance and you know, I burned out. I was pursuing the clicks and then I asked myself one day, what is this for? And I realized I want to do work that's, meaningful to me. And I'm saying that that's where I am, and I'm mocking it, but I'm counting that as part way along. And then the other extreme, which is I guess really where I am actually is antagonism towards any um, data on how the work is received. That to do something pure is to never pause to think how it's received. And like I say, that all seems a little too binary. But why did I mock the middle ground? Because it sounds squishy, because as I said, I think that we're so uh, ingrained to accept the fact that our lives depend on outside approval, our incomes depend on ratings. This is all just accepted, celebrated as okay, I'm going to attempt to get this out. So it was cooked directly on the, sorry, it's cooked directly on the, what's it called? Tray, grate, rack, rack. Ah, it worked. So I took a cookie sheet, pulled it off. Now I'll let it cool a bit. It honestly doesn't look great. I'm not that excited about it. Freshetta. So, maybe I'm aware of the fact that an extreme, like, I'm not going to look at viewers, I'm not going to look at statistics. Um, it's a maybe it's therapeutic um, exaggeration, or maybe I'm just working on finding common ground. It would be nice to have a community. Yeah, I mean, I think if I reach the day when I'm not on when I'm not on sites that are hostile to humanity, then I can be open to the community features. But I have a, I just feel the need to extricate myself from the systems that I am mired in, not by my own choosing, just where and when I'm alive. And if I can get to a point where I feel some fresh air, I'm going to open the doors to release some of that oven fume and cooking. Huh? What was I saying? It, you know, if I find myself in a place where if I find myself in the future where I don't feel under threat every day, then, then I can be more open to those around me, to community. But currently, as a creator, I've tried so many different places, and every single one of them, the the negative, distracting, draining feedback far outweighs the pro-social aspect. So sometimes I share here and don't look at the screen, or I'll tag it, no interaction, even though it's like, I'd love to be human. I'd love to have conversations, but I don't feel this is the place for humans to be, even though I'm here and anyone watching it is also here. And I spend plenty of time watching YouTube videos. But I don't want to participate in a tainted system. It's a, I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm saying it's a struggle. And I hope that if I find myself somewhere that doesn't feel hostile, I might open up more. As for now, my survival is not guaranteed. I feel that I have to be focused on survival, not distracted. Okay, I'm gonna eat pizza. I saw someone in a video do this where they cut it with scissors instead of a pizza cutter, and it works pretty easy. I have a couple of pair of kitchen scissors, so I'm eating fresh etta, spinach and mushroom white pizza. I'll come show it to you. I shouldn't comment on this every time, but this is the the mental health journey that I'm talking about. While I moved it, I just saw the counter go from 2 to 1, and that is a negative feeling. And I want to stop that. And, you know, as I've said before, if I could, I would remove my ability to see that. I, but even on the Fediverse, it's understood that you want an audience, you want metrics, you want, even though it's so much better in so many ways for our mental health and our ability to be ourselves and not um, centered on manipulation, there's still just this ingrained natural, the more people I connect with, the more people number go up, good. Uh, there's a great quote I shared in my RVOT hashtag RVOT Rob's video observation thread. There's a so I'll look that up later, but there's a quote by an academic who says something about the being unpopular in populous times is valuable, is valid, is you know worthwhile. All right, I'm going to eat this food, but maybe when I come back, I'll continue talking about numbers. I tried to hide all my notifications, even on the Fediverse, even in Mastodon, and it's really difficult because they want to give you numbers, and I wanted to live in a world with no red numbers for a while. I think that was my shock therapy or whatever. Now I think I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with it, but not here so much, obviously. I've been using this glass a lot. I almost said cup. Is a glass within the subset cup. Anyway, hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Um, I'm preparing to move. I don't know if that's why I'm using this. It's one of a kind. I stole it from a cafeteria, I think college. Why? I think it's beautiful, and I've never respected institutions. um, and I guess I've always been a klepto slash hoarder. I especially like to drink milk out of this. And that milk's expiration date is soon. So I don't normally glob straight up milk. I usually use it for tea and coffee. Rarely coffee, usually tea. Usually Czech cola. I started doing as one of my dessert indulgences milk and cola, inspired by, I think I started that during the quarantine years, inspired by Laverne and Shirley. And I was like, what is this about? And I was like, oh, it's yummy, like a Coke float, but easier because it's just milk and not ice cream. Always an opportunity to learn. Um, when I was getting my second piece of pizza, and I took you in there with me, at first I was conscientious of not touching the tray sheet pan, and then I thought, this sheet pan wasn't in the oven. I cooked the pizza on the rack, and I used that pan to remove it. Nevertheless, it was hot. Metal, highly conductive. The heat of the pizza went into the pan, I guess, and it's sitting on top of the oven. Heat rises. So it was uncomfortably hot to the touch, despite having been cold and never being spending time in the oven. Excusez-moi. Somebody say a prayer. That's plenty. I'm gonna miss it. It would be really cute if the wind made it flutter right now while I'm talking about it, but dommage. Malheureusement, j'ai beaucoup de pratique de parler français et not as much in espagnol. Moins que, plus que, more than in Spanish. I told one of my neighbors here that I wanted to move to Mexico, and they seemed slightly disappointed and said they pictured me more in France or Paris. And I think in their, you know, racist way, they mean that nicely about me, that they have some romantic view of Paris. Oh, yeah, they happen to be a champagne lover too. And yeah, they just have a they're trying to compliment me, but at the same time, what the fuck, white dude? Um, Mexico's awesome, and the fact that a lot of people don't seem to know it is one of the big reasons that Mexico is where I want to be. But it's the nearest country. I mean, these are also reasons that I'm going. It's the nearest, and it's inexpensive for Americans coming from, from here, from the U.S. to, and that attracts a certain type of expat who's extractive, and I don't want to be that. So it's it's difficult. I'll start with just a visit and hope to make connections and see what happens. And I'm saving. I've got a bunch of videos about protests against gentrification. I do want to face head on this issue of gringos in Mexico. I could say, I mean, I'm tempted to say, oh, it's not me because I'm an artist and I have respect and I want to be where the people are, not where the expats are. But I wanna see 'em dancing. Hmm. It's just life. I'm one person. I will keep trying, but I do feel a strong desire to seek freedom elsewhere. I mean, to walk away from this beauty. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. Part of your world, part of that world. To say I want to be who the people are, I feel, depends a lot on on which people. That's what I'm saying. I want to be where the Mexican people are. Okay, so I was looking at Natalie Etoke's book Shades of Black, the publishing house seagullbooks.org, and I found this from. So this morning, the Scribes and Maker hashtag Scribes and Makers hashtag on the Fediverse prompted us to discuss podcasts and scribes hashtag Scribes and Makers all spelled out. November 5th, tell us about a podcast you enjoy. My answer. At the height of my audio podcast listening, Paul Holdengreber's The Quarantine Tapes and On Being with Krista Tippett helped me survive 2020 to 2022. Nowadays, I regularly tune into the daily video stream, Majority Report, that offers me political solidarity, but I'm currently listening to the Quarantine Tapes episode linked uh, with this Natalie Itoke, and realizing realize that I'm missing that level of nourishment. There's for me, there's distraction, and then there's like nourishment. And Paul Oldengraber said that this was a great publishing option. Seagullbooks.org. So let's look at other things on their website. Books by categories: African Studies, Anthropology, Art, Biography and Letters, Children's Books, Cinema, Conversations, Culture Studies, Drama, Economics, Fiction, Film Studies, or only to the F's, Food and Gastronomy, Gay and Lesbian Studies, Gender Studies, Graphic Novels, History, Illustrated Books, Jewish Studies, Law, Literary Criticism, Memoir, Music, Nobel Prize winners, Peace and conflict stories, philosophy, photography, poetry, politics, psychology, reference, and a bibliography. A whole category: religion, short fiction, sociology, theater and performance, travel, women in translation. Hmm, what is the first category that I will choose to look at? Women in translation, theater, travel, reference, poetry, philosophy, Nobel Prize. Lately, I've come to see that, to view them negatively. Memoir, illustrated, children's, culture, conversations, African studies. This author is a professor of Africana studies and explained that African studies is the study of Africa, and Africana studies is the study of African people, including diaspora, the African people who are no longer in Africa. Let's try art. Oh, there's so many. I think this My Concept of Art by Somnath Ore, one of India's foremost artists of the 20th century. Somnath Ore had a long and storied career that overlapped the boundaries between art and activism. My Concept of Art is a quasi-autobiographical essay that leads the reader through different phases of Ore's life. See some of her work here. Please link work. Please link work. It works. Interesting. If only I were streaming my screen, huh? Sorry, I don't know how to do that yet. Cool, 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 cool. Let's go back to another category: conversations. Several books again. Anselm Kiefer, in conversation with Klaus Dermutz. Jorge Luis Borges. Suspended Passion, Marguerite Duras. I've heard of Marguerite Duras, but I don't know anything. That Which Is Not Drawn. William Kentridge and Rosalind Morris in conversation. Friendship as social justice activism. Niharika Banerjee and Debanuj Dasgupta. Let's look at. I like the cover of this Marguerite Duras book. Well, it looks like Monet's water lilies. Marguerite Duras wrote The Lover. Yeah. All right, let's go back to books by category. Let's try some gay and lesbian. What about switching it to queer? Out of Line and Offline. Air of Solitude, followed by Requiem. Gustav Rude. Swiss. I clicked on this because of a shirtless man on the cover. What is this? Gustave Rude made all of French-speaking Switzerland dream poetically upon itself, the land that welcomed European romanticism from Rousseau to Byron, from Lamartine to Shelley. His poetry could seem idyllic. In this two-part book, he stalks the structures and fields of his youth, composing memories out of his landscape. Baudelaire, The Sex of the Angels, The Saints in Their Heaven, by Raoul Schrott and Arnold Mario Dallo. Christian Cosmology. All right, let's go back to category. Um, there was one that, reference and bibliography. I mean, is that just going to be every book? No. Grotowski's Empty Room by Paul Allan. Jerzy Grotowski was a Polish stage director, theater. Empty Room. I'm just not serious enough to read big old books. Hmm. Memoir. Time Within Time, Andrei Tarkovsky. War Diary, Ingeborg Bachmann, Austrian. The Journey of a Caribbean Writer. Naris Condé, best known for her novels Segu and Windward Heights. Oh, wait. Let's look at fiction. Old women. Hmm. This edition is not for sale in the United States. Oh, but there's another. There's a link to another one that is. Oh, wow. There's pages and pages of fiction. I'm tired. How can you judge a book by its cover? Well, someone chose to put what's on the cover on the cover. Hmm. Hmm.
As the passion for freedom awakes in him, and it awakes in the choice, as it is already presupposed in the choice, he chooses himself, and fights for this possession as for his happiness. Self, and fights for this possession as for his happiness.
The hideous flower revolves its black petals in the mad flesh of the sun. Hypnos by Rene Char. Notes from the French Resistance. Hmm. This volume is a meditation on the on the magic of poetry and a celebration of the power of beauty to combat terror and transform our lives.
Illusion of a future, friendship, love. They are intimately bound up with events, that is. I would then glance over them from time to time, but seldom read them through. The notebook might have belonged to no one at all, so remote is the meaning of a man's existence from his journeyings in life, and so hard to tell apart from a mimicry at times quite staggering. Tendencies of this kind is quite staggering.
I talked about this before. I have prejudices. That's not one of my favorite British voices. YouTube. This book's available on YouTube. I'm tired. I don't feel well. Maybe the pills haven't hit yet. Well, I'll just bookmark the publisher's website. It's very nice. I don't know if I'm up to reading anything, but they have so much. Hmm. Gross. Like I love this website. I like they've got links to art that work. They've got links to audio that works, and then here's listen to a conversation between author and writer about on our Facebook page. Fuck no.
expert commentary. The Rebind Study Bible app reads scripture to you, enriching your comprehension with insights from
Scripture.
the
Oh, this is
world
an
renowned
ad.
members of the courts to collect Xerox copies of obscure case law from the library. But whatever my role was, it also meant that I got to stand in the court and hear the arguments. And so at this moment, there was a bit of dramatic irony that I genuinely didn't intentionally engineer, and that was that I happened to come out to actually engineer, and that was that I
Mm. Humanities Podcast Network. I'm finding just all sorts of interesting links. Leaks. Leaks. You mean green onions? No. I mean leaks. I mean whistleblowers from humanity are releasing these, you know, secrets, betrayals of status quo. Hey, Frog, I'm not keeping you. You have broken legs. I'm sorry. That means no one will keep you, I'm sure, but you've been very much a part of my life here. It's not, I want to move for my own survival, and it's not my fault that, I mean, one of the reasons I'm moving is that the norm of my current surroundings is waste and destruction. So the fact that I don't have places to take broken technology, that I have, the fact that right to repair doesn't exist, the fact that I have no connection to a sustainability community, the fact that, these aren't, I can't bear all this on my shoulders because these are some of the reasons that I'm fleeing. I mean, the big reason, the reason I'm fleeing is that I do not have community. So while I work to flee, there's nothing to be gained from me giving myself shit for, not living up to community. I'm I am making connections with some people before I leave, and they're going to salvage some of the stuff, and I think that's the best I can hope for. I could go back to these prompts from Think Like a Monk. Do you believe that duty and love are the best motivating factors of our lives? I guess, I mean, duty is definitely another word that I would never use, but I suppose I feel I have a duty to love, life. Would success bring you happiness? Success is happiness. Success is feeling good being myself. Nice try. And all of these are yes or no checklist questions, by the way. I can't participate in this farce. I don't respect institutions. Do you believe that happiness is from within and not external? Yes. Would you handle discomfort better because it is linked with someone you love? Uh, I also just think Jay Shetty is a Shetty writer. Would you handle discomfort better because it is linked with someone you love? I mean, yes, if you have love, love is comfort. So, I mean, you need to be more specific, but I have discomfort in my back pain. Oh, but it's not linked with someone I love. I think they mean caused by. So maybe like my previous, like my marriage, which is, but I was often asking myself if what love is and if that was love, and it seemed like more discomfort than comfort. The comfort part was sort of a desperate clinging, which is a fault of my own. I wasn't able to experience love as a two-way street in that at that time. I thought I was handling discomfort because of the distraction of love, support, caring, sex, companionship. But I really wasn't. I mean, I was not handling discomfort so great. It was, I mean, I, it seems as though it's hard to talk about whether or not I'm making any progress at all because it's, it if I look back, really every phase of my life has been uh, controlled by discomfort, and I don't know if I'll ever get past it and have peace. But what I feel now is more mental and emotional peace, and I do like weirdly, I rate that higher than I rate those things as more powerful than the physical discomfort that I feel every moment. I mean, but at the same time, it's difficult. I mean, ranking and good, bad, simplistic, binary. It's just all it's it's an abstract painting, um, which I'm looking at right now. But because I wouldn't wish this physical discomfort on anyone, and I'm not going to say it's all tied together. Like I had to pay the price of what my body's going through in order to have mental. All I know is my one life experience, and I do know that physical limitations have caused, have contributed within me to a mental peace when I think, what can I do? I'm limited. What can I do? It causes me to say what matters. Kind of like the way, you know, 2020 COVID, I think, caused a lot of people to ask what matters. And some of us made big, big moves as a result of that. I'm gonna put the pizza away. How am I gonna do this? Got all these plastic containers. Pizza tonight. I'm your baby tonight. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Oh my God, I want to go back and change my answers to that medical history form I turned in. I was just, it was like, it's called medical history. So I was like, anything that ever, like for instance, I clicked the box for acne. Well, I don't currently have much worry about it, but it was once, I mean, I've got scars and it was once a big deal. But like, why is that important for medical history? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't click suicide because of thoughts or whatever, because I didn't, it's like I feel so far removed from that. I consider it a complete impossibility. But it's as, but if I'm going to include acne, I should include the fact that suicidal ideation is in my history. I just thought it's something I'd rather have a conversation about than a check mark in case I didn't want them to look at it in terms of like, oh, this person, can't go on this type of medication. They have this history of instability where it's like, which is which is related to what I was just talking about. So if I had to, I would take now over any time in the past. Well, any time, whatever. If I were offered one time in the past, two times in the past, and now, I would choose now. If those times were times of self-hate, I mean, because a lot of my past was, and just feeling completely lost and questioning my worth, because I believe that happiness is from within and not external. 5, do you think that what you do matters to anyone else? Yes, simply. 6, to live intentionally is just about having wants. And then this is a question. 6, period, space, capital. To live intentionally is just about having wants, question mark. Okay, so since the previous question began, do you think, we're going to say, do you think that to live intentional is just about having wants? Sorry, I'm distracted by the fact that I'm wearing these sense dampeners. And then I heard some pounding. I'm like, I hope they're not pounding to get my attention. Quit laughing so loud, you freak. You self streaming, talk to yourself freak. I could be on the telephone. Nobody knows. Because what I do doesn't matter to anyone else. Do I think that to live intentionally is just about having one? I mean, I guess the answer has to be no, because anything that's just anything. All right, let's try to be serious here with this horribly written, self important claptrap. Do I think, I'm just going to rephrase it, do I think living intentionally is about my want? So, a serious answer to that is that I think in order to live intentionally, I have to be open to knowing what my intentions are. And if you want to say that wants are a synonym of intention, then sure. I do believe that it's important, it's self empowering and honest for me to understand the actions I choose as wants. For instance, in my society, people might say things like, I have to pay my taxes, I don't want to pay my taxes. I mean, they might think of things that way. I have to do these things that someone is forcing me to do. But it is my belief that it can be reframed as a want. Number one, I don't want to be charged with a crime. I want to exist within my society without unnecessary strife, hardship. I mean, that's important because I'm I'm wanting to move because I feel that the strife, the hardship has increased, and the threat is greater due to nothing of my doing, and that my safety is at risk, and that there is no rational path that I could take to ensure my safety, because it's being wielded, because power is being wielded by um, an inconsistent, cruel, sadistic force. So, unlike saying, I will pay my taxes and that will, and I want to pay my taxes and that will, which in my case is just file my taxes. But anyway, that will uh, prevent, because I want to peacefully coexist. That's a choice, and I can submit to that. But no longer feel that I can submit to the requirements because they're not consistent, they're bad faith, they're unpredictable, they're malicious, I mean, they've always been malicious, which is my, this is my privilege that I've been able to live without personal threat. And to be totally honest, I still am, but I'm not sure. And I'm at a certain age, and I've just decided. I mean, like it definitely causes me mental and emotional anguish. So I want to experience what it might feel like to be free. At least I'm going to try. Oftentimes, I mean, there's the thing about who discovered water. It wasn't fish, because it's it's said, philosophically, that we don't see what's everywhere. It's so natural to us that we don't see it. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I talked about this earlier about going against metrics and capitalism and a whole, you know, social media attitude and attitude of creating that it's about how I affect others and the response I get, the rapturous response I get, that I'm making work because I am seeking influence, I am seeking approval, I'm seeking money, I'm seeking, whatever. And I that is kind of like the water of the late 20th and early 21st century. Well, sorry, breathe. This is the way ADHD works, or just any kind of aside. It's like, oh, I'm talking about this, but hey, it makes me think of this. And then it's like, but that, I'm not prepared to write that book. Uh, because approval seeking isn't new in the 20th and 21st century at all. So, that requires much more examination. But just in terms of this ability to make something, share it uh, immediately, that's relatively new. And with it, with that capacity, the tech brought us also the capacity to collect data and make all kinds of inferences about that. And for me, that's negative. And that was such a major aside that I don't know where I was. So I'll take a few breaths and see if it comes back to me. I was talking about the feeling of freedom because of the privilege of money that I had about 20 years ago. My spouse and I went on an overpriced but worth it to us, what's called a gay cruise, where an entire cruise ship is leased out, rented out by one by a by a what do you call it? Travel company. I don't know. There's a word, but like you can book a tour, and that tour might include passage on a boat or a plane or staying in hotels, but that tour company doesn't own those things. They're handling the contract, and you pay the tour company. In this case, it's a cruise, and the gay intermediary buys the whole thing, and then we pay them and experience what is described as, I mean, and I believe to be an improvement in terms of entertainment and kind of atmosphere, and we pay more. It raised an interesting question, which is, like, how do these employees and businesses feel about being taken over by hundreds or thousands of gays? And under, I mean, this is, I suppose, the positive aspect that of capitalism, the way libertarian capitalism is supposed to work, which is that because of the money, they were happy and they were eager to partner with this gay, still not, still missing out on the word that I want to use, but anyway, booking company, tour company, um, for their profits and for workers in certain uh, areas of the ship and certain departments, it was loved and appreciated for the money because the and one of the stats that they would say is that during the gay cruise they would sell 4 times as much alcohol while while using 1/4 as much food, which is hilarious because the food is included and the alcohol you pay extra for. So big profit, and that says something about gays, or at least the gays who travel on Atlantis. But anyway, there are plenty of negatives of this whole thing. But we did it, and then we did it again the next year because the positive outweighed the negative immensely. And the positive, the most important positive to me, was a feeling of freedom. And I didn't necessarily recognize, I mean, yeah, I know grew up in a homophobic environment. And I live in a community where I have to challenge and fight for my rights, and each sort of new, I mean, coming out is a victory, and then there are legal victories, and it feels opening. It feels there's an awareness when that happens, the coming out being the biggest one, of just like, oh, I'm I'm not in denial about, I'm not in hiding. I am who I am. And and we just know the world as it is, and we know that we're queer, we're different. So to be in a subset microcosm environment for a week or two, week and a half, is it's noticeable. I felt I could just feel myself less tense. I felt myself breathing. I felt an openness I felt friendly. I felt able to remember the names of people that I met. I mean, just so many things. I felt like I was in a community for the first time. as even as short as it was. I shouldn't say for the first time. I remember I had a I had difficult I had difficulty socializing as a child. And similar to this experience, I would go away to camp and it would be like a reset and I would have a much better time. And it was a smaller subset and you know the baseline is friendly camaraderie, but this was more so. The gay cruise was more than, you know. I don't know how other human beings feel. I don't know if straight men walk around feeling unburdened. I don't know. But I know that straight white men. But I know that on that boat I felt a level of freedom beyond any I had known before. Of course, it's unnatural, you know. And with my values, I hope to live in a world in which diversity is respected at a level that we could all feel free. Because I don't think the answer is, oh, I'm going to only hang out with the subset that most closely matches me, and then I'll be free. And it's really going to be a test for me if I begin, if I start spending more time in Mexico. What will that feel like? I don't know. Because I'm going to stand out. And it will be a challenge for me to see if I can feel free, at peace, at home. I had I had very I had very positive experiences with some of my recent video. I spent time via video with a couple of aspects of Mexican culture and felt very affirmed. So I'm chasing those feelings. How do you handle multitasking? When a lot of when numerous tasks are expected of me, like certain work environments, school environments, I get forgetful, I get stressed. The way I'm living now is to live by choice. It's an experiment in a way, just to see like what's life like if I make the choices. Can I know what I want? Can I live with intention? And that includes, I mean, and so these videos are are an experiential demonstration, learning, education, whatever. I'm recording and learning about myself, learning to accept myself, to by sharing it without shame, just here I am. Sometimes I'm shirtless, sometimes a lot of times I'm just out of bed and not showered and I make unpleasant noises and I'm in pain and this is who I am. And I don't share to impress. I don't share to make anyone think, you know, I'm not looking to build my self-esteem on the likes and subscriptions of others, clicks, views, whatever. I'm taking a stand that self-esteem is within, and I don't share because I think this is the best, most interesting content that anyone could choose to watch. I share because there is nothing wrong with where I am. There's no reason to hide the way that I am. This was a question about multitasking. Multitasking for me is allowing my brain to interrupt itself, to examine the new thought, make a decision whether to go down the new path or continue, go back to the previous path. So the way that I handle multitasking is slowly and in order. It's one thing at a time because that's how I believe the human mind works. I believe that if I compound the number of things that I'm doing, I'm going to revert to some training. Like driving, I can do lots of things while driving because I have a skill at driving that that has become natural. That's what looks like multitasking. Because I've been following the New York City mayor's race. Zoran Mamdani has you know, that's worth going off on a tangent. There are legitimate criticisms involving intentional mispronunciation of whether it's Kamala, Mamdani, whatever. There is, relatedly, one of the most egregious is the Democrat Party. Its official name, it's always been the Democratic Party. But at some point, Rush Limbaugh or someone decided we don't want to call them that. and they say the Democrat Party, and it sounds like a slur, and it's just become the norm because we live in right-wing world. So I get the reason reasonable, defense of whether it's Obama, Kamala, Mamdani. I get it. But like I don't know how to pronounce whether it's Zoran, Zohran, I don't know. And there are sounds that don't come naturally to me because they're not part of English. And also, I mean, just to be totally blunt, I'm in pain. I'm speaking lazily most of the time. So like, I don't like. Uh, I get on my case when I say already instead of already. I change the L and the R to already. All right, all right. And these types of things, I've talked about it before. I've posted about it before. There are language differences within groups. It becomes about cultural identification. It becomes, used in ranking and judging. All that is worth considering and looking at, and it's worth discussing. But at this, I mean, but I also think that people can make honest mistakes, or people speak quickly, and just the same way that I might say already instead of already, I might say mandani because for whatever reason that comes out of my mouth more easily. And that doesn't mean that I am bigoted against that person. And for me, so my sister's name is Pamela. Pamela. So Kamala was awkward for me because Kamala sounds natural to me. Also, that's an important thing that I don't like about English or whatever that's awkward is the a, we don't know what our vowels sound like. And I think a might be especially. So, or like envelope, envelope. I say both at different times. Address, address. It's just not necessarily the case that every slip of the tongue is rude. I mean, we could say it's careless, and I like to be careful, but I also like to be accepting of difference. And this is something that I struggle with in terms of how I was taught and what I think pronunciation should sound like. And yet I don't want to judge, people who deviate from that. And I grew up with so sometimes it's rude, sometimes it's not. Uh, but maybe some of the rude jokes or whatever, maybe that's a way of processing difference and learning to come to terms with it. Growing up, the only gay characters were stereotypes, like exaggerated stereotypes. And yet I loved some of them because it's like the only option, and some of them are funny. I mean, Paul Lind. I mean, I don't know that I loved Paul Lynde, but I think the content creator on YouTube, Matt Baum, or maybe it's Matt Baum, uh, he, or maybe it's they, I mean, to me, what's important is not to have a chip. I'm not saying, oh, these fucking words I don't know how to say. Why can't it all be Smith and Jones? I've got a clip. I think it's on RVOT, hashtag RVOT, Rob's video observations thread. I think I put it up there, in which someone refers to the director Spike Jones as Spike Johns, but it's spelled Jonze or something. So, and I said, why can't it be Smith and Jones? But there's also Smythe and Johns. Anyway, I think the point is to be loving, to be accepting, to understand differences, and to be careful and aware of the fact that, we make mistakes and we can learn. And being corrected and learning isn't a diminish, doesn't diminish our worth as a human being. In my youth, a lot of, I mean, I'm guilty of making this joke myself. Um, there's a stereotype of, oh, Japanese, East Asian people mixing up R's and L's or something. Now, I used to kind of enjoy inventing tongue twisters in which I inverted the R's and L's as a challenge to myself because it seemed fun. But it's also rude, it's and there are plenty of times that I catch myself, now that I talk more and more and record it, where I've caught myself mixing up an R and an L. So it's understandable. It's apparently easy to do. If I do it, it's easy to do. I'm just saying, um, there is no reason to judge people about things that are not, about behaviors and traits. Okay, there's no reason to judge people about traits, period. And there's no reason to judge people about behaviors except those behaviors that harm others. And I don't know if judge is the correct word, but we use the term judge to describe people who are in the position of holding others accountable. Whatever. Do you think it is important to offer anything in your relationships? Do the values of your friends align with yours? I don't know. How can you be aware of other people? Think of the world as your family. Huh. What is the most comfortable time to serve? Made in the USA, Las Vegas, Nevada. How bizarre. Um, I did that whole diversion about Mondani pronunciation. and I was starting to talk about the skills that Mamdani has. I'm aware that my pain makes me kind of slur because I want to use the least amount of energy possible at all times. So I'm going to be less articulate. Think of me as tired 24/7 or drunk. Y, y también. Speaking in another language is takes effort, and especially when my mouth is not accustomed to moving in those ways. Hidalgo. My sister yesterday said, I think there's a place called Hidalgo. And I said, no. I said, it's Hidalgo. Just one. The L is, there's no L before, the D, not at the beginning, which is not, and I don't remember right now whether she said Hidalgo or Hildago, like just moving one L or adding an L. But that's just the way the human mind works sometimes, that you remember something and it's not your language, and you say, "Oh, there's a place Hidalgo." And it's like, and I had to think and say, "No, Hidalgo." He, an American accent, Hidalgo. Mamdani has a skill, and his multitasking ability is that he can be in a hostile interview setting, process the insults, the uncomfortable circumstances, be uh, genteel. What's the word? Be friendly, be respectful, be dignified. Take the hit, take whatever the shit, respond, and transform, pivot to his message. And I'm saying that's a kind of multitasking because for me, because there are different tasks happening. One is being attuned to others, and one is being tuned into yourself. And how many times have I lost myself because others have distracted me, taken me off message, and I am either arguing or defending or even just selling myself down the river by like adopting their frame. That happened to me in court, but anyway, under oath. But anyway, and I was saying that I believe multitasking, effective multitasking, like in my example, driving, um, in Mamdani's example, conversing, talking, campaigning. Um, Multitasking relies on training, relies on skills that have been practiced, that become natural for some people. And the example I'm using is Mamdani. Uh, Interacting with others and communicating to a wider audience and standing up for his beliefs. natural to him now, you know? I'm just talking in terms of multitasking as I experience it. There are things that I am skilled at that I can do naturally. Other people have looked at me. I mean, I'm not saying this is a great video, but other people have looked at me and said, you can do something I can't, which is look at the camera and talk to people." And so some people would be more self-conscious, and they're losing their focus on one task by their focus moving to, I don't know, what do people think of me? I mean, I feel like I find it very difficult to concentrate on an Instagram live video because there's all this just shit that it's telling me that's irrelevant to, I mean, I've talked about it here. It's easier for me to not look at the screen than to look at the screen. If I want to stay on my message and say whatever it is that's on my mind, it's 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 I'm not skilled to the point where I can multitask by adding in paying attention to what people are saying. The few times, I mean, that I have, people say something and it's completely unrelated to what's on my mind, that it diverts me. So that's a skill. Someone like Hassan Piker has a skill to which looks like multitasking. You'd say, oh, he's really good at multitasking because he's interacting with his chat, he's pulling new links, he's going down new lines of thought, and he's staying true to his values, his messaging, his discipline is communicating values, political messaging, and all of that is happening at once. And what I'm saying here is that multitasking involves training and practice so that certain things become your nature. Because I mean, this is just from my experience, but I don't believe that it's possible to process multiple things at a high level at the same time. So I don't think that you can attend to questions and develop your ideas simultaneously. Good conversations, good interviews are often slow, and the people take turns and they explore things as they go, and then they might say, you know what, that may not be right, or you know, I think what I'm trying to say is this, because they're doing it live versus usually a politician already has their script memorized and they're always looking to go back to it. And some politicians do not add in the extra task of even attending respectfully, interacting to others. Like many politicians, they take the thing, I mean, they just go back to their message no matter what the question to them was. They're not actually present in the moment. They're only living in their own head. And so, I mean, to me, the best politicians are able to do both. And I don't just aspire to be a politician, but I do aspire to learn more of that skill because I would like to, be able to interact with people and not be subverted, not have my intentions subverted. Be open to change and learning and new things and re-examination, but not come out of it thinking later, oh, I should have said this, or what I meant was this, or uh, why did I say that? Why did I say yes under oath when the answer was no? Chapter 8, page 66, Ego. Humility is a virtue that is fast disappearing in our society. I really just don't like this writer at all. Everyone is so engrossed in I, me, my, mine. When we are filled with ego, we are not open to learning and we think we know it all. Meanwhile, it is false self confidence. Meanwhile, okay, we've had enough of you today. Oh, this is not needed. Great job. Wow. Stew orifice. 2011. Still leading the food services. Barf. I'm reading I mean, it does matter what the article's about, but to me, but not right now. Just exploring relationships for students. I don't like this quote by the director of the especially from the director of counseling and psychological services at the university, Anita McLean. The clubs offer an incredible opportunity to connect with people, a sense of belonging, and relationships that will carry on to Wall Street, the White House, the Pentagon. Ah, that's where I'm supposed to be. I was supposed to finish college at Princeton University, and I should have gone to either Wall Street, the White House, or the Pentagon, but I'm here instead, and I just keep falling through the cracks. Every year, I'll find a deeper crack. Oh, I took a class with this professor. Sociology professor Suzanne Keller, who in 1968 became the first woman to receive tenure at Princeton, died December 9th, 2011. She was 83. Keller came to Princeton in 1966 as a visiting lecturer. In the early 1970s, she taught the university's first course on gender and society, and she played a major role in creating the Women's Studies program. A mentor to many students, she retired in 2004. Her research focused on elites, families, gender, inequality, architecture, and community. Her 2003 book, Community: Pursuing the Dream, Living the Reality, culminated 3 decades of observing a planned community in New Jersey. Speaking about the book to Princeton University Bulletin, Keller said, "If we don't take care of the common ground, we don't have private ground." I like the word transcendence. I do to, sort of, that each of us needs to transcend our own lives because all of our lives depend on other people all the time. That's all we get to hear about her. She was a really cool, funky teacher. I enjoyed her class. The class I took with her was about the elites. Um, it was about class, sociology. I don't know what it was called. I was saving this whole magazine for one thing, and I think I just found the one thing, and huh, this person was in my class? God. Here's an old Russian joke. What's the source of all evil? The Jews and the chimney sweeps. Why the chimney sweeps? Why the Jews? It's difficult to have the problem that I do. because it looks like I'm lazy. But I'm in so much pain. And yeah, I'll admit, sometimes I get going and inertia carries me. And if I do that, I can get more done than otherwise. But it's not. Oh, it's Wednesday at 10 a.m. They test the generator, and though it's breezy enough that it doesn't smell too fumy, I usually try to close the doors, and they do that because it smells fumy. Let's see if we can get this Lamperget to work again. God, yesterday it started working. I mean, it started. I thought I rarely use it, and I thought that it was, you know, defunct. Bring in defunct. Bring in the noise. Bring in defunct. And then it worked yesterday, and then I was like, damn it, does that mean I should keep it? And doesn't it kind of look like a Aztec pyramid? But it's so breakable. It's so. I mean, the size is good. I had so many. My weird ex gave me so many, or gave us so many, and I did away with most of them because they were just. And I really shouldn't. All right, let's try again. Why would I keep it? I like the concept of alcohol and essential oil as being an endless supplier of scent distribution. And when it works well at transforming the smell of a place. Why wouldn't I keep it? It's fussy. Maybe if I had the original box, it'd be easier. That goes back to the original box argument. I keep original boxes sometimes. Ah, what's something I can do without hurting myself? I can transfer these photos. But then I've got to find the hard drive. Here it is. Why am I getting a low battery? Notice it's supposed to be charging, but it's not. Damn it. Why not? This whole time I've had it plugged in, but something's wrong. And I don't know what. Super irritating. I mean, at this point, oh, wait. At this point, it's not going to be able to. This point, below 20%, I don't think the charging is going to outpace the draining. Also, this is a difficult shape to carry. I could easily drop it. The fuck is wrong with that charger? Is that outlet somehow turned off? No. So it's the cord? Now it's down to 15%. Oh my god, this is a 4 hour stream almost. I guess I better end it. I don't want to. I'm enjoying myself. So how would I manage this if I weren't using hostile corporate websites? If I were using Owncast or PeerTube, which are the federated video options. Um, so I think in that case, um, I could potentially stream long streams, still not charging. Um, but I wouldn't save them. So they would just be like live and then still not charging. Now charging. Just the stupid butt connector of the iPhone likes to not work. I mean, I could stop streaming and start again since this has gotten so long. Yeah, I could stop streaming, but the problem is, what you may not realize, is that uh, part of my treatment for feeling bad is constant distraction. The drug isn't enough. And if I'm not transmitting, then the next option is eating or receiving. And there's just not, I mean, there's just not a lot that's humanist for me to receive. So I'm going to stop this and just restart again immediately. So, because I'm feeling humanist. Thank you very much.